Welcome to my review of Mother Russia Bleeds, and this is on multiple platforms, but at the time I was playing this on PS4, but it's on multiple platforms. I've been wanting to review this one for a while, as it's actually one of my favorite beat-em-ups of all time as far as 2D beat-em-ups. You know, of course, with 3D beat-em-ups, you got games like God Hand and shit like that, and that's kind of like a separate category for me because they can play quite a bit different. And then you get in the hack and slash, that's kind of like a beat-em-up like Ninja Gaiden for Xbox, but it gets a little bit more complicated with that. But as far as the 2D beat-em-ups, this is among my favorites of all time. This and Double Dragon Advance, for the Game Boy Advance, those are probably, up at the top of my list. And of course, the new Streets of Rage was awesome too. Streets of Rage 4, awesome game. Love the survival mode. But yeah, this game, extremely good as far as beat-em-ups go. There's a lot of moves in this game. And what you're going to be seeing here, this is footage from my hardcore mode playthrough, the hardest mode that I did some years ago. And I don't even remember exactly how I edited this, so I'm just going to be doing the review as I watched this edit I did a while ago. I had edited this game to be reviewed, but I just hadn't gotten around to adding commentary to the edited footage, so that's what I'm doing now. But it'd be good to finally cover this one. I do have a hardcore mode up on the channel, which a playthrough of it. I don't know if it was a tutorial, but I will link what I have in the description, inside the review description. But yeah, in this game, you have multiple different characters you can pick between, and they all play quite differently. It's not just a palette swap. So they play quite differently. Some of them are more powerful, some are faster. I kind of switched between like maybe two of them that I really liked. I kind of like this guy because I think he's pretty powerful and also has decent speed. There's not really... I think there is one guy that's kind of slow, but nobody's that slow, really. I mean, you have a lot of mobility with your running attacks that kind of make up for that. Also, you have all these injections that you can take when you build up your meter. I think you build it up by damaging guys, or actually, I think you have to suck it out of their dead bodies to build up the syringe. And when you fill your syringe up enough, you can use your super ability, and each character has a... Well, actually, I don't know if it's the character. It may be tied to the syringe that you choose. You can choose your syringe loadout with whatever character you choose. You're able to pick that before you start a stage. So, that's something that you can kind of customize. And you can unlock more different ones and ones that you may like for different things. Like, my favorite one was usually the Rage one because it gets you into a Berserk mode, does massive damage on bosses and enemies. And it's for, a certain length of time, but you just beat the shit out of things. So it's pretty cool. But sometimes I think I went for another syringe that was a healing syringe, so I could get some health back and stay in the fight longer. So you may want to, change up your strats. The game supports up to 4 players, which is probably fucking amazing. If you got 3 other people to play with, I think this would probably be an awesome fucking multiplayer game. But I don't think I ever played it 2 players or above. I think I just played it solo. But it would be a fucking great one. I don't think it had online support for co-op, which is kind of a waste. But now I don't even know what it supports. This is an old game now. But yeah, so this is one of the boss fights here. And I mean, I really like the brutality really appealed to me because I was a huge fan of games like Splatterhouse when I was really young, and I still love that kind of style. And this is even more kind of grisly and brutal than those games were. So this is even kind of realistic and some people would say maybe depressing style if you... it has good like kind of dark techno music to it. I don't know what you call it, but it sounds really good with the game. Sounds good on a fucking stereo with some bass. But the atmosphere is great. It kind of pushes the game forward. It makes you want to just keep tearing through shit. It's just a really good energy with the game. You do get a lot of weapons. It's interesting how the game uses firearms in the game because there's sections where you're picking up guns for a long period of time and just machine gunning motherfuckers down, which is really interesting to see in a beat-em-up game. Really unique. Another cool thing, it reminds me a little bit of Punisher for arcade, but it's way more fleshed out. In Punisher for arcade, you could pick up machine guns and shit, but it was a brief kind of thing. But in this, there's whole sections that go on for a while where you're just fucking tearing through people with machine guns. Really cool shit. There's cool shit in the environments, too. Like, with this, you got a boss that you're fighting. You can knock him in the grinder for massive damage. So there's a lot of cool things with the environment. There's a lot of unique situations in the game. See, with the bat, you can just beat this guy right into the fucking grinder, which is awesome, man. Super satisfying. I mean, I love this kind of shit, inside of a beat-em-up. It's very cool. It makes it exciting. The The impacts are great. And it's just such a good game for this kind of game. It's really good. There's a lot of variety. You're fighting on trains. You got to dodge explosives. There's all kinds of different scenarios and things that make the game interesting. Like sometimes you have to protect somebody and beat the shit out of people and keep them away from a target. So there's a nice variety of gameplay. It really shakes things up. It keeps it exciting pretty much from the beginning to the end with all the objectives and the things that are going on. The hits. Everything is just top tier. It's basically, based on a dark kind of Russian kind of vibe, in Russia, but really dark kind of shit, with drug addiction and everybody's turned into fucking zombies. Everybody's fucked up. But it's very fucking cool. So you're seeing some gameplay here. I actually wanted I wanted to edit in and have a nice length of gameplay for this review because I just like the game so much. So I for this review, it's like 22 minutes because I really wanted to showcase some of the cool parts. There's just so many good parts of the game. So here you're supposed to jump these things, that are coming at you from the train, which we've seen in a lot of games before. But this game is constantly mixing it up. Even though it may not all be, completely innovative things that have never been done before, it's just really well executed. And it keeps the game real exciting. And there's an awesome survival mode in this game too. If you're looking for replay, that you can try to kill like hundreds and hundreds of guys. It's pretty much endless survival, and you can go for scores and shit if you're into that. And it's pretty fucking cool. My good friend Cool Hand Mike really destroyed that mode and did really well at it. I didn't play it as much, but it was really fucking cool. I tried it a little bit. I mainly just went through the hardcore mode, which was the hardest mode. That was the main thing I did with the game. After playing through normal first. But the game has, it's not a live system. The game has checkpoints and unlimited continues. So if you get to a new checkpoint and you die, you're going to start back at that checkpoint. Now, I think with this game, I don't remember if it saves your progress within a stage. You may have to access stages through the stage select, so you may not be able to just shut the game off fully and go back. I don't remember if it's saved. I do remember, however, that maybe I had to start some stages from the beginning because I shut off my console, but you may have to leave it in rest mode if that's the case. I haven't tested this in a while, so my memory may be off. This boss fight is really cool. You can stun this guy just at the right time and get him hit by the train, which does massive damage. Of course, you don't want to get hit by the train yourself, but very cool fight, very unique. See, he gets stunned and he gets nailed by the train. Really cool fight. I mean, the game is filled with moments like that, throughout the entire game. And just the moment-to-moment combat of the game is just so good. The game is kind of like, it really tests your crowd control skills, which is really cool. That's what you want in a beat-em-up. And it really tests that with, you get swarmed. One cool thing about this game is since it's not it looks like an old game, but it has the modern tech to have 15, 20 guys on screen at once, it seems like at times. There's parts that are just packed with enemies. And you're mowing down a shitload of enemies, especially in survival mode. But you're going through tons and tons of fucking enemies. And it's just really satisfying. You can throw your weapons. You can do mid-air combos by even hitting items with your bat into the guy repeatedly, like you saw me do. You can juggle guys. The running moves are awesome. Just everything plays really fucking well. And like I said, there's a lot of moves. The more you play the game, the more you discover, useful moves and shit like that actually help a lot. And you're able to just kind of dance between all those moves as you get better with the game. You can also deflect a lot of attacks as far as if somebody throws something at you, you can punch it out of the air. So there's a lot of cool shit you can do if you're able to do it. The game does give you the ability to do a lot of cool shit. So this was a cool area. This is kind of an open street area. And this is where you end up getting a lot of guns at this point in the game and just mowing people down, which is really cool. I thought that would be cool to showcase because it is a unique part of the game. You do have guns earlier on in the game, but this is a part of the game where, for a long stretch, you're constantly picking up assault rifles and just gunning people down, which is pretty fucking cool. You can see the game really gets aggressive with the enemies coming at you, and it doesn't fuck around, which is really cool. Of course, this is hardcore mode, so this is going to be a little bit more aggressive, obviously, than the normal mode. Hardcore was a considerable amount harder than normal from what I remember, but I don't actually remember the differences. But I do remember being considerably harder. The biggest challenge of hardcore mode was mainly that final boss fight, which can be tough. That was one of the biggest challenges, I think, on that mode. I didn't find it extremely hard. It was a lot of fun, though. I really enjoyed it. And the action is pretty much top-notch for this kind of 2D beat-em-up. I mean, there's not many that would have this amount of action on screen like this, and just... Even Streets of Rage 4 doesn't have this many enemies on screen, you know. Not what you're seeing here, but I mean, at times this game has like swarms of enemies all at once. Like, I mean, mobs of enemies that you're plowing through. Hopefully I'll show some of that here, but... Yeah, the game is just pretty much nonstop. So the guys that are behind me right now, I guess they are actually helpers. I think you might rescue them, and then they start to follow you. You got a nice variety of enemies, too, that you have to, kind of vary your strats. You also have, like, a sliding kick. You can slide under guys and flip them over you. There is a lot of little moves and subtleties to the game. And it plays perfectly. I mean, it plays extremely responsively. So now you see Rage mode activated, where you can just tear guys in half, which is really cool. This was a really cool fight. You have to fight a shit ton of enemies first, but the boss is actually very cool, and the boss can take a lot of fucking damage. But one thing I really like about this game that not many games really do, and I don't know why more games don't do it, but as you're striking the guys, you can see permanent damage on them. Like, their clothes are getting ripped, their faces are getting crushed in. And the bosses are like that too. They don't have health bars, but the more you damage them, they just get more and more fucked up looking, which is really fucking cool level of detail in the game, you know? And there were a few old beat-em-ups back in the old fucking ancient days that did that. Undercover Cops had some of that, which I thought was really cool at that time. And I didn't really see other games doing that. And I thought that was really fucking cool, and I would have loved to see more games do it. But, this game, has that kind of detail. So as you're beating the shit out of enemies, they just get all fucked up. It's just a nice little... It adds a nice little, impact to the damage that you're doing. I like it. It makes the game even more enjoyable. And you get a lot of weapons and pickups in the arenas and shit, too. See, these guys have guns, so you can snatch the gun, pop off a few shots, and then try to find another weapon. There's these huge poles and shit you can swing, like in Undercover Cops had that. This game has those huge fucking weapons and other cool shit. So there's a nice variety, and I think you can always throw your weapons, too, so that's always a strat. And a lot of shit is a weapon. Even that motorcycle helmet that comes off the enemy, I believe you can beat them to death with it. And the game provides a nice challenge even on normal from what I remember. And if you really like it, you can, play through again on hardcore, which is a, even better challenge. And then there's the survival mode, which you can really try to push, far and really take it far with that. So the game does have a lot of replay. I don't believe this was the full arena scene, but you will see... Maybe I did show this one in full, because I see the zombies are coming out now. But yeah, now you got these zombie guys, which are really slow, so they're easy enough to deal with. But you see this big-ass pole, it's just a nice excuse to just smash some guys into the, beat the shit out of them with this huge fucking weapon. I really like the air juggling. You see, you can get guys, like, you can hit them in the air multiple times. So, I mean, that's a really cool feature in the game. I also like that all the bodies and shit stay on the battlefield. It's not like where the bodies disappear and shit like that, which I never liked in games. In this, it keeps all the bodies. They all stay, which is very cool. The ones that are twitching out, having a seizure on the ground, those are the ones that you can suck out more of that syringe and build your syringe up. So if you do that, you'll get your syringe up, and then you can use your berserk mode or whatever syringe that you happen to have. Like I said, you can choose different ones, like healing, I think some might make you faster. There's a whole bunch of different ones, depending on what you like. A lot of times it's a good strat to switch them up based on the stage. If you're having trouble with a certain part, you may want to switch out your syringe. But soon we'll see the boss. But you fight quite a few guys before the boss actually comes out. And then the boss is quite tough. So this is one of the harder parts on hardcore because it's a huge checkpoint. You got to go through all those guys, then fight the boss. So if you fight, you only have one life to do it. So if you fuck up, you got to redo this whole section. It could be tough. The boss takes a lot of hits. So it's a long fight. So you got these little dogs fucking with you. You can hit guys on the ground, which has been done in other beat-em-ups before, but it just works so well in this game with all the moves that are in this game and how smooth the controls are. So I think here I think what I did was I left all the firearms on the ground pretty much. And I was planning to save them up for this boss. So now I'm running around trying to find them and just pop off some shots on the boss. And that gets me a good amount of damage on the boss. So it's a nice little baseline to finish him off. So I think that's what I'm doing here. I haven't played this in a while. But yeah, from the presentation to the way the game plays, it's one of my favorite 2D beat-em-ups, of all time. It's just very, very well made. And of course, a lot of that, gameplay only goes so far. A lot of it's going to come down to personal taste. If you enjoy the whole experience. But I think anyone who appreciates really good 2D beat-em-up gameplay is going to enjoy this. Because it's such a good one, it's just so well made. The boss fights are extremely enjoyable. All the weapons. I mean, for me, this is way better than any of the 16-bit Final Fight or Streets of Rage games. And I enjoyed those. Most of them. Aside from Final Fight for the Super Nintendo was a pretty bad port. But the original game is quite good. But yeah, this guy takes a lot of damage. But like I said, it's cool that the bosses do get more deformed as you fuck them up. So it's kind of cool to see, see them get gradually more damage before they die. It gives you a little bit of an indicator, like, you can see like that you got a little bit farther by, if the boss looks more fucked up, you can kind of tell if you maybe got a little farther than you did the previous time. But yeah, this boss is pretty quick and can be dangerous. Weapons are always effective when you can, if you can hold on to them. But this guy's a little tricky sometimes. He also throws all the dead bodies, which is cool. It actually makes use out of all the bodies on the ground. The boss actually throws them at you, which is very cool. The environments are used very well. It just feels like it pretty much does everything right. I figured I'd show some of these fights in their entirety just because they were cool fights. I didn't want to cut them all down to nothing for the edit. This was one of my favorite fights of the game. So I tried to highlight some of the standout moments that I thought were worth showcasing. So yeah, he takes a lot of damage. But it is cool when you finally take him down. That checkpoint definitely took me some tries on the hardcore mode. So now we have something a little different here. This bald guy here is going to keep trying to escape up that helicopter on the ladder. So as you're managing all these guys, you're going to have to take him off the ladder so he doesn't escape. So it adds a new little wrinkle to the gameplay. And there's all different types of things, like where you have to like move an item through multiple screens and protect it from the enemies and things like that. There's a lot of different like objectives and gameplay mechanics mixed in that keep it fresh. You see I'm using a different character here. I switched to this character near the end of the game. I think he was better for the final boss because he's faster. And for the final boss, you want to have some speed to you because you really got to move out of the way of some of those attacks. So now you're seeing the final boss fight. And I'm showing it in full fucking glory. But this was a very cool fight. Multiple forms, very cool. It's a good showcase for one of the cooler boss fights in the game as well. So worth showing. So yeah, in my review score, I'm going to be rating it, as compared to other 2D beat 'em ups. I think that's the best way to review these kind of games, is just review games based on what they're comparable to, As I've said before, it doesn't really make sense to try to compare this to something like Elden Ring or some shit on Series X. I mean, completely different games, and, they offer totally different things. But for me, this is pretty much, close to like the pinnacle of beat 'em ups. But yeah, this was a cool fight, and there's a lot of cool fights in the game. There's a boss where you have to destroy, a large vehicle by destroying sections of it and punching out sections of it. There's just a lot of good shit. So this one, this boss has quite a few phases that you have to learn. Especially on hardcore, you really have to get it down. So there's a decent amount of phases that you have to get through. And it does help to have this quicker character for this boss, I found. But yeah, the visuals are great as well in the presentation, and like I said, the sounds of the game. Everything just fits really well and kind of drives the gameplay forward. So now we pretty much have the last phase or two of the boss. So you're going to want to be able to jump those syringes pretty quick and get back to the boss and get some damage in. I think I may have pulled some bullshit by using my rage in its vulnerable form, which I think really accelerates the damage you do to him. So that was a cool trick. I think I may have had a tutorial up for the final stage. I'll have to see exactly what footage I have. I know I have a hardcore playthrough up, and I may have a tutorial for that, or maybe it's just the final stage I did the actual commentary for. But I will post what I have in the description. So check that out if you're interested. But yeah, so that's the ending, at least with this character. I don't know if they vary for the different characters. Like I said, I'm not big on endings. But yeah, I'd give this game a 9.5 out of 10 for the type of game it is. I think it's a top-tier beat 'em up. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.